The women's rights movement has really got patriarchy shook. And I truly believe that this is why there is such a rise in baby mama culture and endorsing women to have children, social media content endorsing women to have children, because patriarchy does not want to go. Instead, it wants to evolve. It wants to find new ways to oppress women and stamp on their freedom outside of economically. Hello, 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 Pretty Girl alumni. Welcome to the lesson. Class is in session. Grab some snacks, some tea, anything to keep you company, and let's get started with today's video. Reason number one why men try to trap you with babies as a pretty woman is because of possessiveness. Possessiveness disguised as love. Okay, so I've mentioned plenty of times on this channel that men see women as a prize. A lot of men see beautiful women as a status symbol, as a flex, as a benchmark of their achievements, as a reflection on themselves. So when they feel insecure about keeping a pretty woman, they think a baby will tie her to them forever. And for a lot of women, it actually does, because parenting is a two-man job. So even if y'all are not together, you still have to co-parent with this person, and they know that. And that's why there is so much pressure on women to have children. And I truly believe the same with marriage, honestly. So now, not only are you legally binded through marriage, but also through children. We are all familiar with how legally and emotionally and financially taxing a divorce can be. And it's often a luxury for women who are independent and can make their own money. That's why a lot of women choose to stay in toxic marriages. So if the man is toxic, for example, the Kanye West and Kim Kardashian situation, they will use the legal system to their advantage, okay? We have seen this time and time again with people trying to gain, with dads, abusive dads and ex-partners trying to gain full custody of the children just to spite the partner, just to hurt the mom, or they try to make the divorce process extremely hard, extremely unreasonable. And like I said, with the Kanye West and Kim Kardashian situation, look at how this man was crashing out after Kim decided to file for divorce. He was bashing her online. He was making it so hard for her to, just enjoy her life as a single woman, as a divorced woman. Men know that the legal system is not for women, okay? Patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism, they are all related to each other. You cannot have one without the other. That's why there is such a big backlash against any type of deconstruction of these systems, because essentially, if you deconstruct one and if you abolish one, it will have a domino effect on the other. Like with the civil rights movement having an effect on the women's rights movement, it's a tale as old as time. We see this time and time again. We see that the people who benefit from a warped system will fight tooth and nail to protect that system, not because it's right, but because it is benefiting them and it keeps them on top. Patriarchy teaches men to dominate, okay? It teaches men to basically have some sort of control over things. And the more control you have over more things, the more quote unquote powerful you are viewed. And society actually rewards this. It rewards violent behavior. It rewards abusive men. Look at all the abusive men who are raised to power. Tory Lanez, this man, this man, his music career was mediocre at best, right? But somehow, after that whole GBV incident with Megan Thee Stallion, you see all these men rewarding him. Hashtag free Tory Lanez. Keep that man in jail. Hashtag free Tory Lane. Now people are posting his music. Now people are like championing him. And a lot of the times it is pick-me's and emotionally unintelligent men. So why set yourself up for disaster? Like, why add another factor to make your life harder by bringing a child not only into a toxic situation, but also binding yourself to a toxic person for life? Essentially, like, parenting is a lifelong career. It is a lifelong journey. And reason number 2 is men fear losing pretty women to someone better. A lot of men who get into relationships with pretty women know that woman is out of their league. They know that she could probably get anyone she wants, or someone better than him. And instead of working on the relationship, they try to do a quick fix and secure the relationship through pregnancy. And they do this because they want the girl to be too busy emotionally, physically, because we all know that birth is physically taxing. So they're going to be so preoccupied with the baby, recovering, if they had to take time off work, trying to get back into the career field, finding nannies, finding babysitters. It restricts your freedom. So you're too emotionally invested to leave, right? Men are emotionally lazy, so they don't want to put in the work it takes to actually build a healthy relationship and keep a woman who they view as out of their league. Because most of the times when they start doing the work, they'll realize that they're the problem. Like I said, patriarchy teaches men to compete with other men. So once they secure this goal, because I always speak about how a lot of these men dehumanize women, they objectify us, they see us as a goal, as an objective, as something to attain. Like I said in the previous point, possessiveness. When you are possessive of something, you see it as yours. And for something to be yours, it has to be a thing, it has to be an object. So, this is why a lot of men, when women leave relationships, they get so violent because they have the same reaction that they would have if someone tried to hijack them or break into their house or steal their items. They literally see you as something that's theirs, and that's why a lot of men feel entitled to taking their partners or exes' lives or beating them up and doing all these outrageous things. And the worst part for them is not that you're leaving him, it's the fact that another man is going to essentially, quote unquote, possess you. And that's what gets the men more, because a lot of these misogynistic men actually value male validation more than anything. They want to be seen as the top dog, they want to be dominant among other men. So once you leave him, he starts picturing all these scenarios because he knows your value. He knows who you are, regardless of what he may say to you or if he puts you down or if he tells you otherwise. The reason why they don't want you to leave is because they know your value. Because if something was truly useless, like these narcissistic men like to preach to their partners, oh, you're useless, oh, you're not all that, oh, you think you're better, you're not whatever they say, it's because they're lying and they know they're lying. Because if something was truly useless, you would not keep it around. You don't keep wrappers around your house unless you just don't clean. You don't store them in a valuable part of your house in a safe or whatever. You don't store trash in your house. You throw it out. So if you truly were as invaluable as they claim you are, then why the hell would they want to stay in the relationship? Why the hell would they want to give you a baby? It's because they know your value. They just don't want you to know your value, because if you know your value, you're going to start wanting better for yourself. You're going to start expecting more. And that's one thing these misogynistic men don't want, is for you to expect more from them, because a lot of them can't even give that. A lot of men who seek these beautiful women to procreate with know that they're mediocre at best. Okay, they know that they themselves are not as attractive. Like, if you were to put this woman in the category of attractiveness with other women, she would be ranked very highly. If you were to put that man in an attractiveness scale with other men, he would not be anywhere near the top, right? And even if he is, attractiveness comes from a lot of places. It's not just physicality. It can be emotional intelligence. It could be financial literacy. It could be even general intelligence. And this ties into the next point, is that they want control over your freedom, okay? So, like I said before, giving birth alone, pregnancy alone, is very taxing on a woman's body. It is, a lot of times, it does leave permanent changes, and not just physical, but like emotionally. Your hormones are so all over the place. Your body doesn't function like how it usually functions when you are not pregnant. And the women's rights movement really has a lot of these misogynistic men shook, because now women have their liberation and we're inching closer and closer to equality. We don't need men for financial dependency. We don't need men for a place to stay. We don't need men for our necessities. Women are able to get these things on their own now. We're able to open our own bank accounts. We're able to buy our own land. We're able to get our own cars. We're able to do a lot of things that women in the previous generation weren't able to do, or weren't able to do as easily as we are able to do that. So their next line of defense is trapping you with a baby, because think of all the social expectations on mothers, more so than fathers. And this is also tied to patriarchy. So motherhood often limits a woman's mobility, choices, and time. A maternal figure will always be the primary caregiver to a child, right? So if you're preoccupied with taking care of a child, and usually during infancy stages, this is 24/7. Like, the child does not have regular sleeping patterns. That's why mothers have to wake up at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 12 a.m., midnight, to breastfeed and nurse the baby back to sleep. And men know this. Men know this. They are actually more calculating than people give them credit for. They're just calculating in all the wrong ways. So when you are preoccupied with a child, it is so much harder for you to be financially independent, to leave toxic situations, to build your career, to get an education. Not saying that it's impossible, but it is extremely harder when you have to take care of another human being, when you have a whole human being dependent on you. And for a lot of these women, it is solely you, because these men will check out emotionally, and a lot of them will just be deadbeats straight up. So this is the game of patriarchy. Patriarchy wants to make women's liberation so difficult that they opt out of it, right? Because in previous generations, all you needed to do was be a man to get a wife and procreate. Now, because of women's freedom, we are able to make choices not solely out of survival. And obviously, it's not like this in every country. There are a lot of countries with very oppressive regimes still on women, especially. But for the women who have more liberation, they can't trap you with your finances. They can't trap you with your lack of education. They can't trap you with your illiteracy, because women weren't even allowed in education. Like, if you were a smart woman in the medieval times or a slightly competent woman, you were a witch and you were burned at the stake, right? So now the patriarchy is evolving and they're looking for new ways to trap women into toxic relationships. And this is why there is such a rise in the male loneliness epidemic, because women aren't choosing men based on surviving. Because when you are in survival mode, you don't have the option to be picky. You need to get your basic needs met, right? And in a way, when these men impregnate you, they kind of taking you back into survival mode, because a lot of women do not have support systems to be able to take care of children, right? They do not have a supportive family, or maybe they're relocated far from their family. Especially if you're with an abuser, then they will literally try to isolate you from your support system so that you're solely reliant on them. So you need your partner in that situation. You need your partner, because what if your water breaks? What if you need to go to the emergency room? What if the baby is sick and you can't drive because your feet are swollen, your ankles are swollen? So they basically try to make you hyper dependent on them so that you disregard all their negative attributes and stay solely because your survival depends on it. And I'm moving on to the last point of this video, which is they feel entitled to your body. They feel entitled to procreating, because these are the fantasies that patriarchy sold to them. From young, they are conditioned to believe that once you're an adult, as a man, you are going to get everything that patriarchy promises men. You're going to get the money, the status, the title, the beautiful woman, and the happy nuclear family. The white picket white picket fence. I'm sorry, the white picket fence just makes me laugh. I don't know why that word's so funny, but so once they grow up and reality sets in that, oh no, it's not just gonna get handed to me. I actually have to work hard, and a lot of the times I have to do the opposite of what I was conditioned to do. Like, patriarchy teaches men to be emotionally unintelligent. Like, the only acceptable emotion is anger, and they teach them to be domineering, controlling, hard-headed, stubborn. And once they realize that, oh, they need to do the opposite of that to actually sustain relationships and have a good family life, instead of actually putting in the work, they would rather throw a tantrum. They would rather go online, complain about women, call women 304s, call women hyper independent, call women masculine, call women men. Like, there was that whole phase on the internet where, like, a strong, independent woman who would usually express her sexuality openly was labeled as a man. Sorry, let me rephrase. A black woman, especially if she was darker skinned, darker toned, then they would call her a man. Oh, this is a man, y'all. Obviously not exclusively to dark-skinned black women, but because I've also seen Glorilla get called a man. I've also seen so many gorgeous celebrities get called a man. Donna Summers was called a man, and Lady Gaga as well. They would try to instigate in interviews and say, "Oh, like what's your genitalia down there?" Extremely inappropriate, by the way. Extremely inappropriate and absolutely disgusting behavior. But to get back to the point, they feel entitled to what patriarchy promised them because they feel like they need to get paid for all the trauma that they suffered from being a boy and growing into, and I say this with a grain of salt, coming into manhood, because a lot of these men mentally are still teenage boys, are still toddlers. Like, they feel like they deserve a reward for following the rules, for doing exactly what they were taught. Like, when you're in school, when you follow the rules, you get rewarded. That is positive reinforcement. So now they feel like they are missing out on something that is rightfully theirs. They deserve to procreate with pretty women. And honestly, seeing the Cardi B and Offset scenario unfold, and Offset basically takes, "Oh, you're my baby mama, I won," just highlights the whole scenario. Like, just fully encompasses in one tweet, fully encompasses this mentality. It's like, well, now you're stuck with me forever. So I can basically do whatever I want. That's why so many women go online and speak about the experience and how these men change after they have their children, because they're like, "Oh, well, I've reached my goal, I've attained my asset, so now I don't have to pretend anymore. Now I don't have to actually put in all this work that I did before to try and deceive this woman into having children with me." And I think the worst part that I've noticed with baby mama culture is that the patriarchy works really well on women too. This is why we have so many pick-me, so many women with internalized misogyny, exhibiting misogynoir, because the patriarchy works really well, not only on men, but on women too. So a lot of men will be toxic in the relationship, and women will still procreate with them because of how deeply ingrained the conditioning is. You are taught to value male attention by the slightest bit, male acknowledgement even, as like this end all be all, like that defines you as a woman, that places you on the catalog of how valuable you are as a woman. So men don't even need to put in that much effort to get women to procreate with them. Like, this is why I truly believe there is such a rise in baby mama culture, because before, the nuclear family system was valued, and this is not me glorifying tradition. This is me just bringing up a point to prove this theory. So previously, the traditional nuclear family was valued, and a lot of the times, because men were the sole providers and women were literally treated like property, because you had to pay the father or the family money, dowry, to be able to even marry in the first place. A lot of them would have to put in a lot of effort. But now, because of the liberation and the social constraints that have been, social and economic constraints that have been lifted on women, now men don't even need to try that hard. They can be toxic partners, they can be shitty partners, and women will still procreate with them. And, you know, just to bring it back to the first point with regards to marriage and having children within that marriage, for men, having children after marrying you, they just see that as double assurance. So, double assurance is a term taken from insurance companies, which is basically insuring an item twice to get twice as much interest or your money back when something does happen to that property. So it's like, okay, now you're legally bound to me through marriage, and you're also legally bound to me through a child. So that's a double whammy. Now it's going to be harder for you to leave me and to distance yourself from me and to essentially live your life. And if you don't take anything from this, I want you to take this one point. Always prioritize yourself, especially as a pretty girl. You need to put yourself first. Your standards are not too high. Think of all the things that you require to actually build a sustainable relationship. So if you compromise on your standards, you're compromising on your future, essentially. You are placing a bet on something that has a higher likelihood of turning out badly than turning out good. I was researching the statistics on, relationships. 70% of relationships end within the first to second year. 70% of relationships have a lifespan of 2.5 years. So why would you place your bet on something that has a 70% chance of failing? And not only that, why would you bring a human into a situation where it has a 70% chance of ending badly? It's like if you went to a bank or you went to invest your money and they had a 70% failure rate, you would not invest your money in that, right? If you went to apply for a school, apply to a school, and they had a 70% fail rate or a 70% dropout rate, you would not apply to that school. You would find a school or a financial institution with a higher chance of succeeding, because everything has risk. Like every choice you make as an adult is risky, but there is such a thing as smart risk. There is such a thing as discernment. And if you place a bet on something that is reckless, then that is a direct reflection on how you value yourself. You do not value yourself enough to make decisions from discernment. So this is the topic for today. I hope you enjoyed Pretty Girl Alumni. Please comment any other reasons why you believe that men try to trap women with children, and like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.